Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the foundational reading and linguistics program that ThinkCirc has developed. And I would like to pull this picture up again, just because it really depicts, it's a great visual of what also has happened in the marketplace. So if we look at word recognition and how it's been geared for K-2 students, you will only find curriculum and resources on word recognition for K-2 students. So what do we do when we have middle school and high school students who need help with word recognition? There aren't resources, there aren't materials available. So as a previous assistant superintendent and curriculum director, I spent the last 5 years wringing my hands because there's nothing, even when I did have ESSER money to purchase, there is no resources to purchase that are age or developmentally appropriate. And so teachers are frustrated because their secondary teachers are experts in their content. They don't know how to teach word recognition to no fault of their own. And administrators are very frustrated because there's no place for them to go to find those resources. And so you have the one reading specialist that you may be lucky enough to have in your district is now stretched even more thin as they're trying to now replicate all of their resources and materials and make them appropriate for middle school. So hasn't been a great situation. And then, like, drum roll, until now. So the goal really with ThinkCirc's program is what we've tried to do is meet two goals. And one is to meet that gap in the marketplace, to develop curriculum, materials, and resources for big kids, middle school and high school, that teach them word recognition where there hasn't been anything before. And we want these to be developmentally appropriate. And the second goal here is to also remove the stigma that comes with reading remediation. If you tell a student or they see it on their schedule that they have a remediation period, motivation is automatically down. They're disengaged, and that's the first barrier. And if we look at barriers to adolescent learning with struggling reading, one is that decoding piece. Two is the motivation. I hear more questions than any other questions from middle school and high school teachers. How do you get them to care about anything? It's the apathy, it's the emotion around it. How do we get them to care? Well, one of the ways we remove that first barrier is by taking this linguistics approach. And so a lot of it is semantics, and we're marketing and we're trying to get kids on board. And so we're removing the thought that this is a reading remediation course. This is a linguistics course. What's the difference? Smart people do linguistics. Dumb people do remediation. Okay, so let's just call it as it is. In the foundational reading and linguistics program, it provides all of that basic reading foundation stuff, but on a linguistics platter. And so we've organized it by the 5 categories of linguistics. And so we start at this micro level and really move through the macro level. So the first part that students experience is the phonology, the sound patterns and rules. And then we kind of move our way around the circle to morphology and word building, sentence structure, semantics, which is really context clues and vocabulary and multiple meaning words. And then we end with pragmatics, which is really how culture and bias work into a text, how dialect impacts a reading experience. And so that contributes to tier 1 and to tier 2 instruction. So even if I'm a fluent reader and I'm good with comprehension, I can decode this sentence. I might not know why a rule is the way it is. I might not know that no English word ends with the letter J. And building up my understanding of language and the study of linguistics will help my overall reading experience. Building up that morphology is going to help me on SAT and ACT prep. So for tier 1 instruction, it checks that box, but this was really designed for tier 2 instruction. And those students who have all those COVID babies who are now in intermediate and middle school that missed, instead of getting reading instruction with their teacher where they were sitting on the rug and getting explicit instruction, they were at home trying to do things online, and it was not effective. And so we're seeing all those huge gaps. So a little bit just logistically about the program: 18 units, approximately 5 lessons per unit. That equals, if you're using a 45-minute period, about 100 days of instruction. It was developed to be student facing because, again, we know that secondary teachers aren't trained to teach reading recognition or fluency. And so this was built in spite of that. And so this can be very student facing if that's the method that you choose. So students pace themselves through the program. It starts with a quick video to front load the skill. Then they do an online lesson that has practice. And then there's quizzes and spiraling information, and you have all of the same data and reporting system. And then immediately after that practice lesson, students are reading a nonfiction background building text that they can see that skill immediately applied within that grade level text. For example, if they just did a lesson on the vowel teams that make the long E sound, the text that they're now going to read, all of those words that have long E sounds are going to be bolded or highlighted so that they can see the application of that immediately. And it's not in a cat, chase, dog type sentence. This is a grade level type text.